Okay. Hey, everybody, I'm Zane.
And I'm Josh, and some people call us the Merver Brothers.
And others call us the check engine light of the automotive world.
Ouch. That hurts.
Yeah, you kind of come on unexpectedly and you want to ignore us, but you shouldn't.
So, here we're back at the, Banks Chevrolet Studios in Concord, New Hampshire for GM Joyride, produced by Banks Chevrolet and brought to you by GM-Trucks.com.
It's good to be back for episode number 2.
We weren't canceled, so that's good.
Woo-hoo,
awesome.
yay.
Actually, so we had a lot of fun last time, and one of our listeners and viewers raised a point with me that of what the connotations of a joyride is. So
Something fun, right? Like
that's kind of what I thought, but there's
You're telling me
something
that it's
else
not?
to it. Yeah, there's some legality to it. So I didn't know if I believed
Are
them.
we doing something illegal here?
So I went and I Googled it, right? And so what I found, was a joyride is a ride for enjoyment in a vehicle or aircraft. Now, that's what I thought, and that's what I had in my mind. And then I continued to read and saw that it also is a fast and dangerous ride in a stolen vehicle. So I didn't really believe that. I wanted to keep going and find some more. I guess they were right. So I found another definition, and it says it's a pleasure ride in an automobile, especially when the vehicle is driven recklessly or used without the owner's permission. So,
Well, I think we do have permission to be driving the vehicles we're driving.
we just wanted to clear up, that, there is no illegality that we're here, right?
We've
everyone
been accused of bringing crime into municipalities before.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
So I kept reading, and I thought this would be interesting to share. Some recent usages of the term joyride online.
Zane and Josh's terrible podcast video. See,
Kevin Purdy from
GM-Trucks.com.
Ars Technica said, since then, one of the author's neighbors had a Kia broken into, and another had a Joyride Hyundai ditched on his lawn after crashing through his fence.
So you're saying we should have picked a better name for this video
No,
series?
I think it lines up with
With
my
what
brother
we do
likes to
on a
drive
daily
recklessly. So the team took the bus for a joyride around the school parking lot, police said. But the department did not say if there was any damage to the property or bus. And that was in the Miami Herald. So
A team took a bus for a joyride around the school.
yes, so we do not condone stealing any vehicles, but
But we do enjoy having fun driving them.
yeah.
That is definitely endorsed by us. Maybe we should get back to what we're here to talk about, and that is this week's episode. I was thinking, last month we brought up Super Cruise and how it was something that we'd want to expand on more. So I think let's talk about Super Cruise a little bit today.
Yep.
We'll also come back to the truck Stumper and offer you all a new one for you to ponder in your minds. And then we're going to talk about our 2022 Silverado 1500 ZR2 and what it's been like to drive and own it for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So we've got
Wow,
quite
gone
the episode today.
Yep.
Let's get going here.
All right.
All right, Super Cruise. So Josh, we've had a lot of fun with Super Cruise, but maybe the first thing we should talk about is what vehicles can you get Super Cruise in? Where has it started?
Yeah, just let me say, it really feels like we're living in the future here when we talk about Super Cruise. Like, wow. We were promised, flying cars when we were younger, but this is about, I think, as close as it gets. So I'm excited to talk about it and to see where it's all going. First, in the GM truck world, was on the Escalade, but I think it was on the CT6 before that and some other Cadillac vehicles.
So Cadillac was basically the impetus, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're-
but
like
our
you
first
said.
time driving it was with the Escalade, and now you're going to be able to get it on the High Country Silverado and a handful of other vehicles.
Sierra Denali, Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, a lot of the upper trim levels, right? As of right now, like the high top of the line trim levels for the trucks and the full-size SUVs, you can get Super Cruise in. But that's changing really quick.
Yeah.
The new 2025 Tahoe and Suburban is going to have it on a lot of the lower trim levels as well. The new EVs, like the Blazer EV, Silverado EV, Sierra EV,
Yeah,
the
it's going
Hummer
to be something
EV.
that you're going to be able to get on along the
Yeah,
product
all
line
of them
eventually.
have it. Yeah, exactly. The new Traverse and Acadia are all going to have Super Cruise. So if anybody's looking at buying a vehicle here in the next year or two and you're going to walk into a dealership, most likely you're going to be faced with the option of, do I get Super Cruise or not?
Yeah.
And I guess before we start talking about if you
what
should
is-
get it, like what is Super
Super
Cruise?
Cruise?
So we all know what cruise control is.
Yep.
Right? You basically are removing, you're setting a speed, and now you don't have to touch the accelerator pedal.
Yeah. Yep.
You still have to use the brake to slow down, but it sets one speed, and you just keep moving without any input from the driver.
And then few, years later, we were able to have adaptive cruise control where it would slow down. And
So you
one
know
less
what-
thing to do. Yeah, now we don't have to worry about the brake.
Right.
Yep.
It's all about removing interactions from the driver, kind of taking part of that load off of the stuff that you have to do as you go down the road. So we've removed the gas pedal with cruise control. We removed the brake pedal with adaptive cruise control.
And then we started to see lane departure warning systems that would kind of keep us in our lane or nudge us a certain way, but you still had to keep your hands on the wheel, and that's just a lot of work. So
Yeah, I know, actually driving the car. So Super Cruise actually then is the next step. It allows you to take your hands off the wheel too.
Yeah.
It's a semi-autonomous driving technology from General Motors that allows your vehicle to navigate down specific highways and local roads while you kind of twiddle your thumbs and have a good time.
But you got to keep your eyes on the road. So Chevrolet and GM has a term that they like to use: hands off, eyes on.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. So maybe now would be a good time to talk about what are some of the things you can do and can't do with Super Cruise.
Yeah, so you can drive down a highway and have the vehicle stay straight in the lane, not hit the vehicle in front of you, stay at the speed you specify, like adaptive cruise control.
It'll even change the lane.
You can even change lanes, but it will not get off the road. It will not make right-hand turns. It will not come to a complete stop at a stop sign.
It's not driveway to driveway autonomous vehicle driving. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and as of right now, you can look and grab a cup of coffee.
Yep.
You can maybe even remove a sweatshirt really quick if you're really quick about it.
Getting out of your seat.
You can't get out of your seat.
You're not, falling asleep.
Yeah, you can't sleep.
You're not doing other things.
You can't read the news. You can't read the newspaper.
Yeah.
You can't have a magazine up or apply makeup even for too long. I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I think you can take your eyes off the road for like 10 or 15 seconds. But then after that, the system's going to basically alert you and then slow down and pull over even, because it assumes that maybe there's something going wrong, like if you're having a heart attack or other kind of medical.
And we should talk about how does it know that you're not looking at the road.
Yeah, like
Super Cruise has a camera built into the vehicle right above the steering wheel, and it has facial recognition in it. And it's looking at your facial features, your mouth, your eyes, and making sure that your attention is where the vehicle is traveling and not in another direction.
Yeah, none of that
crazy.
None of that image is going to upload it or anything.
No.
I actually heard that there's infrared sensors in the steering wheel as well, which
to
is
illuminate
cool.
your face correctly.
But how else is it working? What else is beyond? What other kind of sensors are there? How does Super Cruise work beyond the normal cruise control and adaptive cruise
It's a
control?
really technically advanced system. I think I heard the term sensor fusion. Is kind of like how they describe it. And so first off, as we mentioned, Super Cruise doesn't work on every single road. You can't pull out of your driveway and on your local development road hit Super Cruise and have it drive you. There are only specific Super Cruise enabled roads that GM has mapped out. So the system starts with GM mapping a road with GPS and LiDAR and cameras, and basically creating a digital footprint of the road, its speed limits, the lanes, the width of the lanes, any obstacles, guardrails,
and that's
turns.
all saved in your car. Like it's not downloading that from OnStar or anything.
Well, it's downloading it. It's updating it.
But it's saving it to your truck, and it's
there is a specific piece of hardware called the map module that retains all of these
I thought that was cool.
detailed maps that show the system whether or not it is Super Cruise enabled or mapped. And GM started out with like 100,000 miles of
I think
roads.
it's 200,000 miles,
And
right?
then they
Oh,
went to
yeah.
200, and then they recently went to 400,000 miles of road in the U.S. and Canada. And so when they jumped from 200 to 400, they started adding 2-lane roads. Originally, the system only worked on 4-lane divided highways, but now there are some limited 2-lane roads that you can use the system on. And then just last month, they announced they were going to double that again to around 750,000 miles of roads, which means pretty much every major interstate and local state road is going to be covered by Super Cruise in the very near future.
That's awesome. So, we're using it, the car's using GPS.
Yes.
And it's got saved maps.
Yes.
Obviously, everything that's involved with adaptive cruise control. So you got the front and rear facing radar system.
Yep.
But you also have
a camera in the front as well.
Vision system running in the front as well. That's looking at where the lines are at, the weather conditions. Maybe there's something that's changed from when it was mapped by the system. And then
cleared road markers. The yellow lines and the white lines are very essential for the system to work. It needs to be able to see them. If I know, right now with it, we're coming out of winter here in the Northeast. A lot of that road sand has kind of worn away some of those lines, and it can have troubles in situations like that where the yellow line and the white line are not very, very prominent.
But it's never relying on any one particular piece of information at any time. Like you said, the sensor fusion, it's kind of triangulating everything. And
the sonar sensors too, yes, on the side, to make sure there's kind of the vehicle wants to know what is going on around it.
Yeah, if there's vehicles coming up on behind you or in front of you, knowing when it can turn back into the lane and all of that. It's using all of those sensors to do that, which is really cool.
Yep.
We first had a chance to use it with the Escalade.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
And that was a couple years ago. The
Yeah,
system's been around for a little bit of time.
GM has been talking about Super Cruise for around a decade.
Yeah.
It's only really practically been in production for 3 or 4 years. And they've, even since they started making it 4 years ago, the advancements in the way the system drives have been immense. I know when we first drove that Escalade, that was our first experience using Super
I think
Cruise.
you described it as like a new driver.
Yeah,
almost.
it was like getting in the seat with the 16-year-old kid who was like, you'd kind of bounce between the lanes. The corners wouldn't be so smooth. If a vehicle kind of cut in front of you, it'd stab the brakes. It would accelerate quick. It was just like a new driver behind the wheel.
Yeah. But that's just not the case anymore, right?
Not anymore.
Our next exposure to the system was with our Hummer EV.
Yes.
And a few years later, the system's improved drastically. So why don't you?
Well, and that's one of the other benefits of it, is that it's upgradable. It's over-the-air updates can fundamentally change the system. And GM can update it and make it smoother and update the roads and update the capabilities and add more features to it as time goes on. You're not buying one thing that can only do a certain set of roads and a certain set of features. As time goes on, the system performs better, performs in more situations, and drives better too. And like you said, we've seen that in our Hummer.
Over time, it's been updated, which I think we'll get a little bit more into. But why don't you talk about your first experiences with this system, and then I'll kind of go through my personal firsthand with the first time using it on the Hummer.
Well, the first time you use Super Cruise, or the first time I used Super Cruise, it was sketchy. Because our whole lives, you're told, keep your 2 hands on the wheel. That is like the #1 rule of driving, is you do not let go of the steering wheel. And now all of a sudden the car is saying it's okay to let go of the steering wheel.
It's a little hard habit to break, right?
It is. It's a very hard habit to break. And to think that it's the vehicle driving. It's this artificial technology, and you're supposed to be trusting it. And
we've all had, the blue screen of death on our computers. And now suddenly you're supposed to trust this computer with your life, essentially, right?
Don't worry, it won't kill you. I gotta say though, the more time you spend with the system, the more you use it, you very quickly, at least I did, maybe
Yeah.
you're different, but I very quickly started to trust it.
Yeah.
And I started to learn where it was excelling, where it had issues, and I would use the system in the situations where I knew it was going to be best utilized. And, long stretches of highway, it's amazing. Crowded rush hour traffic, you probably want to drive yourself.
Yeah.
It could do it.
It can do
It can do it, but
It's all based on your own comfort level too.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Like you want to use it where you're going to feel like you're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And that is that ability to kind of just take a quarter step back from the driving process and relax a little bit and have a little bit more enjoyment out of what you're doing instead of, sitting there gripping the steering wheel for 15 hours on a long road trip. And then, you go as time goes on and they update it, you start realizing, hey, like, not only is this cool, but I want to use it too. Like I am looking every time I get to a road that I know is Super Cruise compatible, I'm turning on the cruise control and enabling Super Cruise because it's just fun to sit there and cross your hands and kind of like just let the vehicle take you down the road.
My first time with it.
Let's talk about you.
Yeah, well, my first time, I don't read manuals. I don't do that stuff. I didn't really have any preconceived notions of what the system was supposed to do or not.
Surprise.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's just how I operate. But so
in that case, though, it's good though because did it work like you thought it should work?
Well, it did absolutely, and I was nervous as well. Like I had trust issues at first too.
Why don't you describe so people know? Like we just say, oh, you use Super Cruise. How do you use it? What is it like?
Well,
how do you enable it?
When you're driving, the system will let you know through an icon whether it's available or not, and you have
a little steering wheel
have
icon on the screen.
Yeah, and so if it's available and you are in adaptive cruise control, you're able to add on the Super Cruise feature by pressing a button, and when you
right on the steering wheel.
Right on the steering wheel, and when you do that, you get some feedback through the notification lights that are built into the steering wheel that show you whether the system is operating or not. So that took a little bit of getting used to for my first time, but I mean, once you do it,
and so once it
2 or 3
flashes
times,
a specific color, which in this case is green.
Yep.
There are 3 different colors: green, blue, and red.
Yep.
You might imagine red means take control of the vehicle again because the Super Cruise is not working. Blue is the color you'll see while it's engaging but has not yet taken over, and green is the symbol or the color for that it's okay for you to take your hands off the wheel.
And you would think that I would have researched that before I jumped in, but I didn't, and it was pretty intuitive. Like once you do it a few times, you're rocking and rolling, and for the first 3 or 4 miles, 5-10 miles, I was really nervous. I'm not going to lie, because
it kind of makes you a little more stressed than you normally would be.
Yeah, the car is driving itself, and you don't trust it, and it's like, when is it going to mess up or whatever? And it's still on you because you're still responsible, and you're still supposed to jump in and take control. But I don't know, after like 10 or 15 miles, you start to think it's really cool, and it's amazing how fast that transition happens where you're like, okay, I trust the system. It's doing its job. It's staying in the lane. It's literally turning and putting its turn signal on and passing cars on its own. Like, that's crazy. And you start to get into this comfort zone where you trust the system, and maybe even a little too much, because what I found was as we were going down I-90 and going into a construction zone, I had my first wake-up call, which made me realize that, you really do have to still pay attention and make sure that you can intervene in those moments. So
you can't get completely distracted or disengaged from the situation.
No, you could really get yourself in a
zone
trouble.
out. You can't, tilt your head back or
fall
just
asleep or anything like that, because the system's going to expect you to jump in sometimes. And what happened to me was I saw the car in front of me swerve, and I had a pretty safe distance with them because adaptive cruise control was working and keeping a safe distance. But there was a big traffic barrel that had fallen over and was a good 3 or 4 feet into the road. And so had I not been looking, the system was going right for it, basically. And so we probably would have hit that barrel. But I was able to quickly do a little maneuver and go around it. And that was the moment where it kind of all clicked into place for me, where it was, this system's amazing and it's great, but you really still do have to pay attention. The hands off, eyes on is really important, because you never know what's going to happen. And you can fall into this trusting complacency, kind of ignorance is bliss, and everything's being handled for me. But we know the world's not that way, and there's things that change. And
Yeah, and Super Cruise is supposed to be disabled in construction zones.
yeah, so I didn't know that.
And you're not, and I would call that another one of those situations where you probably, if you come into a construction zone and the Super Cruise is still working or it still wants to drive, you probably should disable it.
It wanted to drive still.
Yeah, it
and
still
was
wanted to
doing
drive.
fine.
And GM works with local municipalities. I'm not sure exactly the vectors of the information and how it gets passed around. But if, like, the state of New Hampshire set up a construction zone on a major highway, they should be telling GM, and then that would be relayed so that the Super Cruise system would not work inside of that construction zone.
Yep.
But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes municipalities do not know or have the resources to be updating map makers or GM or whatever that data source is to it. And if you have an unexpected lane shift that's temporary for that morning because they're building a new guardrail or there's a broken down vehicle, Super Cruise isn't going to know.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me then, 5 miles down the road. Was basically, we did a lane shift across 90. And the system was handling it just fine. And there was a big old tractor trailer next to us, and it was doing great. But I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be using it in the construction zone. And then it kicked out, basically. And it was kind of scary, but it was a good moment for me to just kind of learn where I shouldn't be using the system, and haven't really had any problems since. So that, knock on wood.
It's a learning experience. And you and I probably combined have about 1,500 miles of Super Cruise.
A lot more now since they opened up the more surface roads and
we use Super Cruise today to get here to the studio.
Yep.
We probably did about 10 miles of Super Cruise on a 2-lane road, going very close to your house, and then on the local highway here, I-93.
A few months ago, when they released that extra 200,000 miles of road, I can actually come out of my development, and the road right there is Super Cruise.
The main road's right there.
Yeah, it's cool. So now I have just so many more opportunities to use the system.
So I know that, now that we've had all this time behind the wheel, using it with a vehicle we own, like the Hummer EV, I'm curious what you think. Would it make a difference to you if you were buying a new vehicle and you had to choose between one that had Super Cruise and didn't have Super Cruise? Would it affect your buying process?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it really depends on your budget, but if you're looking at, something, if your budget allows for it and you can get a high country, or you're already looking at the high country, it's just like, heck yeah.
I agree with that. Me too. If I had a vehicle and I was purchasing something and Super Cruise was an option available, I would opt for it.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have said that before, because I would have just said, oh, that's something that I'll probably never use.
Like a heated seat or a cool seat or a heated steering wheel.
All
like,
those features
why would
that you don't
get
need
that?
but now can't live without.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's how I would describe it to somebody who was maybe a little dismissive about it. And it was like, well, do you like a heated seat? Do you like a cooled seat? Do you like a heated steering wheel?
You will integrate this into your driving the same exact way.
Yeah, you will kind of scoff at it and go, why do I need that? And then you'll try it and you'll be like, oh, this is nice. And then before you know it, you'll be like, I can't live without this. I don't know how I ever drove a vehicle without Super Cruise before.
Because of that, it's cool to see GM's rolling it out to more and more vehicles. And we don't know if at one point it will become a standalone option, if that'll ever happen, or if it'll just be built into different trims.
Yeah, let's talk about pricing, because like you said,
we don't know if that'll ever become an option that way.
Right now, you basically, if you get a vehicle that has it as an option, it's usually packaged in one of the optional
higher trim
level technology add-on kind of things. So it's not a standalone a la carte kind of feature
Yeah.
that you say, oh, I want to add Super Cruise to this vehicle. I'm getting the technology package or the technology 2 package, and that includes Super Cruise.
And it's
in it.
also something that you get 3 years use of, right? And you're not really sure what happens after that yet. It'd be great if GM would announce kind of what that pricing looks like, if they're going to charge for it after the 3 years, and what that's all going to be.
Yeah, it is a subscription service that right now anybody who buys a vehicle with Super Cruise, it's just going to work. And the official line is that it's free for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
What that looks like after 3 years, nobody really knows yet.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they would clarify that, so that when you're buying it, you have more confidence about what's going to happen after that 3 year period.
I would hope that it's going to be in the $10 to $20 range, and not any, like $20 is going to be a lot. I hope it's not anything more than that.
We'll see.
But yeah, we will find out. I'm sure it's going to be an OnStar related kind of add-on. It'll probably come with some of the OnStar packages, or be a la carte like the remote access stuff is. We'll find out someday if it's something that is available. But you say you get a vehicle now and it doesn't have Super Cruise. You can't add Super Cruise on later. So if you think that you want it,
get it.
You got to get a vehicle with it, because you can't add it on later.
Yeah, and I'll throw in there that, with our experience of Super Cruise, GM's been really good at supporting us, and we have had a few issues with it.
It hasn't been
after what, I don't know, after having the Hummer and driving it for about 6 months, we started to have an issue, and we couldn't quite figure it out. And it was shutting off, and we weren't sure why it was shutting off.
Yeah, we were having an engagement rate of only about 10%. We would
suddenly,
very, very suddenly.
Yeah.
It went from working perfectly to every 9 out of 10 times we'd try to use it, it would engage for 5 seconds and then flash, buzz our seat that it was disengaging.
And we didn't know why.
And we had no idea why.
Yeah.
So
you're trying different sunglasses and shaving beards and not wearing a hat and all these different
adjusting
things.
Seat heights.
Yeah. And we were really trying to break it down, and none of that seemed to work. So we called up Banks Chevrolet, and they got us right in, and we replaced the camera module that was
the facial recognition camera had gone bad, or was defective, or something had happened with it, and the error that it was spitting out was cannot recognize face when the system would not engage. It just, something was wrong.
My brother's too ugly.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to look at me while I'm driving all that time either. But somehow it does it. And the minute it was replaced, the vehicle was in with Banks for like a day. They gave us a loaner. It was so easy. They were really responsive to getting it fixed, and the system's been flawless ever since.
It makes me realize that we spent way too much time trying to diagnose it. When
we probably shouldn't have spent the 4 weeks just trying everything.
But at first we didn't know why it was shutting off, and as they released over-the-air updates, the system now allows, if there is a problem and it won't let you enable or it kicks out, you can actually see from the system the reason why it kicked out. So that was really helpful to get that information.
Yeah, and you'll see very regularly, can't see lane markers, too sharp of a curve, can't see your face, are some of the things and reasons why the system may disengage on you. And it's getting into a really, really good mature spot now, I feel like.
We've been using it a lot recently and had 0 issues, and
well, even to the point where Josh and I are about to go on a road trip in a week to go check out the Eclipse, and we want to be in the area of totality. So we have 2 different trucks we can drive: our Silverado ZR2, which we'll talk about here later in the episode, and our Hummer. And the Hummer has Super Cruise. So guess what? They're taking the Hummer.
Probably going to take the Hummer. It makes I-90 so much better. It gets kind of boring there for those 300 or 400 miles. Where
between Albany, New York, and Erie, Pennsylvania, it is just nothing but straight 65 mile an hour divided highway. And
that's where Super Cruise really is just great, because
amazing. It's just amazing.
It's surprising to me how much it allows you to, in the process, stay more focused, because you're not caught up in getting tired and the fatigue that happens with having to pay attention to every little thing. We actually, though, turned off the automatic lane change system.
Yeah, you can customize the features just a little bit, and one of them is that the Super Cruise comes with automatic lane change enabled, which means that if you approach a vehicle that's going slower than you and there is nobody to your left, it will automatically change lanes and then pass the vehicle and come back. And
we kind of found that we like being able to pick and choose when it just
we
gives you
changed
a little
that
bit more
to
control.
manual lane change, which means the system will still change lanes. However, we use the turn signal stock and to signify or tell the system when we want to switch lanes.
Yep, and also it can trailer.
That's another one of the updates
which is
that
something
have come
that
here
GM,
recently.
the Super Cruise has that nobody else has, is the ability to use the system while you have a trailer hooked up, and it just knows automatically because you plugged in your trailer, so it knows there's a trailer there, and it uses some cool computations to figure out exactly the new braking distance it needs and all that. It just does it all behind the scenes and works seamlessly, and we found that it worked just as good with a trailer, with our 28-foot trailer loaded up as with no trailer. So
I used it a couple weeks ago, and it was a very windy day. And our enclosed trailer, like you said, is 28 feet long. It's like 10 feet tall, and it's a brick. Like the wind just moves it around. And Super Cruise had to work a little bit, but it kept everything in the middle of the lane, and it just had no problem with it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It really feels like we're living in the future with Super Cruise.
It does.
It's exciting technology, and we can't wait to see where it goes. And we'll keep you in the loop as these updates happen and more roads are enabled.
Yeah, and check out GM-Trucks.com for more updates on our experiences with Super Cruise. We'll be writing more articles about it and any kind of issues or good things that happen with it. And if you are even remotely interested in trying it for yourself, please go down to your local dealership or Bank Chevrolet. I'm sure they will show you around the system, let you take one of the vehicles for a drive. It's really something you can listen to us talk about it. You got to go try it for yourself because it will seriously blow you away with how it acts and performs. And it's just one of those things you got to do yourself to see.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, Josh, it's that time for the Truck Stumper.
Yep.
Do you remember what last month's Truck Stumper was?
I do. Yeah, it had to do with wind noise and the next generation, the new generation of trucks.
Yeah, back in the teens, what kind of feature they added to reduce wind noise.
Yeah.
So do you want to hear the answer?
I do, but I think we've kind of had a problem. No one got the answer right. So
was it too much of a stumper?
We might have stumped our 10 listeners.
Hey, our mom listens. It's 11.
So what we decided to do is we're going to keep it open for another month or so and see if we can't get the right answer. We got a lot of really great answers. It's just that none of them were right. So,
and we really want to give away some good swag.
Yeah, we probably should get that swag made.
Well, we got more time now.
Yeah, there was also a rumor circulating that the email didn't work for a few days. So
whose fault was that, Josh?
Definitely, I'm gonna blame Google.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
definitely
Josh.
wasn't my fault. I didn't set it up incorrectly or anything like that. But
So
we got a new one.
Yeah. So if you want to hear what the original Truck Stumper from episode 1 is, why don't you go back and watch that episode? If you think you know the answer, what's the email address that they can send the answer to?
Stumper at GM-Trucks.com.
Yep, and we'll be looking through all those answers and picking at random a correct answer out of all the correct answers.
Hopefully we get
a correct answer. And we'll share that with you in episode 3.
And we'll send you some swag, GM Truck swag, as well as some Bank Chevrolet swag in there as well. And so let us know what you got. I think you guys have it in you, so let us know.
Speaking of, do
yeah,
you want to do a new one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I have a wonderful new Truck Stumper.
Hopefully we made it a little easier.
Not a chance. So I like to call this one the Midnight Fuel Duel. In the quiet town of New Boston, New Hampshire, Josh and I decided that we were going to settle a debate that we've had for a long time. Whose truck is more fuel efficient? And we were going to do this late at night when there was nobody on the roads, and the conditions were a little chilly, but otherwise pretty perfect. Josh was going to be in his 2023 Chevy Colorado, while I would be in my 2023 GMC Canyon, and they are nearly identical. So we were very, very competitive about who
I like to win.
Yeah, he likes to win. I like to win. I think my truck's better. He thinks his truck's better, but in reality, they're very similar. So we planned a very simple test. We would fill them both up at the same gas station. We would then take identical routes side by side, hoping that no one was coming in the oncoming lane. And we would go then and return to the same starting point after covering 100 miles.
Okay.
Whoever had the most fuel in their tank at the end of this challenge would be declared the winner. Now, we had not made any significant modifications. These are basically the same trim levels, tires, engines as they came out of the factory. We had, basically ideal conditions. It was a little on the chilly side. It was in the fall. And but otherwise, there was no fog, no rain.
No weather.
No weather. Okay. Everything was dry, no snow. And so we were able to complete this in one go with no significant problems. We didn't have to stop, and it was no big deal. We went from point A, the gas station, did our loop, and came right back.
Who won?
So given the identical conditions and the nearly identical designs, you with your Colorado, me with my Canyon, what was the simple and decisive reason that you won?
Oh, you're right. I won. Nice.
That's our question for you guys today. Why did Josh win the Midnight Fuel Duel? If you think you know the answer and you want to win some amazing GM-Trucks.com swag and Banks Chevrolet swag, send an email to Stumper@GM-Trucks.com with your best guess and maybe a $20 bill, money wired over at the same time. We're still waiting for that payday.
Some Benjamins might bring you to the front of the list there.
And we'll find out what the answer to this one is in episode 3.
All right, I'm definitely.
You're happy because you won.
I won. I didn't know I did. I remember doing this test. I know you guys can figure it out though. So let us know at Stumper@GM-Trucks.com.
In 2022, Chevrolet completely refreshed the Silverado, offering a brand new feature or a brand new trim level, the Silverado ZR2. The most off-road capable Silverado that Chevrolet's ever made.
Yep.
And
we've been eyeing down the Colorado ZR2 at that point.
We just had to get one, basically, right?
I wanted one really bad.
Yeah, so when they came out with it, we went over to Banks and put our order in and purchased a fire truck red hot Silverado 1500 ZR2.
Yep.
And we've been driving it for the past 2 years, and it's been a great truck in a lot of respects. It's also had some things that we kind of regret about it, and we're going to take a few minutes to discuss those.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that truck. First of all, it's like my favorite truck we've ever had. I love the color. It's just not every red does it for me, but as soon as we knew that we could have the red hot, same one from the Colorado, same color from the Colorado, right?
I think so. They change them up from year to year, but it's basically fire engine red. There's no metallic flake to it. It's just a very bright, sweet red. Not obnoxious, not neon, but very visible. And I think it's a nice color.
And we were coming out of our 2019 Silverado with the 6.2. And so when we went to order this one, we only had the 6.2 as an option at the time. And so we got it with the 6.2, and we were excited about that. And
basically we got it fully loaded. We got all the technology packages, the sunroof, the multi-flex tailgate, and the 6.2 engine with it. So maybe we've gone too far. Let's back up. What is
what is
a ZR2? What makes a ZR2 a ZR2?
Well, first off, you get the really cool flow tie. I'm easily impressed.
A unique grill, a unique front,
grill.
a unique steel front bumper, a little more durable, and a black painted rear bumper
Yep.
as well.
You get skid plates underneath,
Yep.
which is awesome, and
Unique wheels,
unique
18-inch wheels.
and you get front and rear locking differentials, which
Yep.
that combined with the Multimatic DSSV dampers are like the main meat and potatoes of what you get with the ZR2 truck option. So
Yeah, so the DSSV dampers are the shocks, and they're very technologically advanced, perhaps some of the most advanced shock absorbers that you will find. Engineers will call them dampers, but dampers and shocks are almost kind of interchangeable in words.
Yep.
And basically, long story short, if you want to see a video on how DSSV dampers work, we're going to put it in the description for this video. We've done one in the past when Chevy launched the Colorado ZR2.
I actually had a chance to interview one of the engineers that designed the shocks, and he did a really great job of explaining how they work, which I am not very good at, regurgitating that well because it's pretty complicated how they work.
Yeah,
So check that video out.
In a couple words, they are mechanically actuated. There's no electric or electronic variables to this. They're not controlled by computers, but they have a series of valves in them that allows the shocks to be either very stiff or very soft, depending on how quickly the shock is compressed and engaged.
Yeah.
So you can go from rock crawling, where the shocks will be very compliant, low speed, to jumping on dunes, and they stiffen up and kind of support the truck's weight as it comes back down on the ground. They're very, very versatile. They've been used in road racing on Camaros and Corvettes.
It was actually
and stuff in the past.
They took the research and development from Chad Hall and the Mint 400, which you actually had an opportunity to go for a ride with Chad at part of the Mint 400, and that truck that you got to ride in was the development truck for the Silverado ZR2 that we ended up buying, which was really cool. That you
I would say one of the highlights of my career was riding inside the Mint 400 in the Chad Hall Silverado race truck that, unbeknownst to us, like, we knew there was maybe going to be a Silverado ZR2 in the future. We didn't really know that the truck we were riding in was the development truck for that future model.
Yep.
And we went over the Nevada desert at breakneck speed. I did another video, which we'll put in the description, for you to watch my experience in it. But wow, once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I'm
thing.
jealous. That was really cool.
And you came along, but
your eyes were like wide open when you got out of that truck.
It was amazing. I've not done anything like it in the past, and to this day. And to use that truck and beat the ever-living heck out of it in the desert racing, and then use what Chevy has learned to create a truck that they now sell almost identical to that vehicle.
Yep.
Out of the factory.
It's
you can go to your
a stock truck.
Yeah, Chad and Hall Racing, they race trucks that were manufactured on the regular line with factory parts. That's the class that they're in. So everything that they use has to be produced and available for consumers to buy at a dealership or from Chevrolet Performance. So there was no cheating.
We had to buy the ZR2.
Yeah, we had to buy it after that. And here we are 2 years later, and it's been great. So we've gone over like what it is. So it's got the unique styling. It's got the
2-inch lift.
It's got a 2-inch lift, like
basically the same as the Trail Boss.
Same as the Trail Boss, a 2-inch lift. The rear leaf springs are a little softer, so there's 4 leaf springs instead of 2 in the Trail Boss. It's got the DSSV dampers, the front and rear locking differentials, and the trim level of the ZR2 kind of sits alongside the High Country. It's one of the upper trim levels. Prices for ZR2s range anywhere between in the mid 70s to mid 80s.
Yeah, it's not a cheap.
It's not a cheap vehicle.
But you're getting the front and rear lockers and the Multimatic DSSV dampers, and that's really what you're getting. And
if you want to go off-roading, whether it's through trails like we would have here in New England, or sand dunes like out west, or just go out and actually have a vehicle that is super, super capable to conform to any situation you're in. This is the truck you're going to get from Chevy.
Yeah.
Like, bar none, this is the truck you're going to get.
There's been a few moments where we've been off-road and going some back road trails in New Hampshire, and to be able to kick in that front locker and to get out of a tight, scary situation has just been super clutch. And the ZR2 and everything that we've thrown at it has been able to handle all those situations. And so it's been awesome to have a truck as capable as the ZR2. It's been a great truck for us, so we love it. We know it's always got our back getting out of those situations.
I don't think there's any vehicle that I would want to be stuck in a snowstorm or in a mud puddle with more than our ZR2. It's just,
so who might be interested in that truck? I mean, there's probably some things or reasons maybe you wouldn't want to get that truck. The first thing I can think of is if you're doing a lot of towing, for instance. When we tow with the ZR2, we immediately notice that because the rear leaf springs and shocks are more forgiving, or whatever,
a little softer,
softer, that the truck squatted a lot more than our other truck.
yeah,
I definitely really good.
It still tows great. I mean, don't get us wrong. We can pull our 28-foot trailer, no problem.
Yeah.
But it's not quite as good as our 2019 Silverado was, and it doesn't hold a flame to our Hummer. The Hummer is probably like one of the more ultimate towing vehicles, aside from range. But
you probably want to look at the HD ZR2 if you're going to be doing a lot of towing and still want that off-road capability. And we did a deep dive into that on our last episode, so check that out.
If you're interested, if you want to do the off-roading, but you're going to be towing a lot, like campers and stuff, the HD ZR2, the 2500 HD ZR2 is probably going to be geared more for what you want.
Yeah, and we didn't get the Colorado ZR2 because we've got dogs and...
Yeah, you got a couple dogs. I've got a family and a dog. A mid-sized truck just isn't going to be big enough for us and what we want to do and the amount of stuff we're going to haul around. Also, we're not driving on really tight, narrow trails a lot.
I mean, there's plenty of them in New Hampshire.
It's just we don't find ourselves on them.
So if you're doing that, then the Colorado ZR2 might be a better fit for you then as well too.
But it is cool that they have like this. Chevy has this whole lineup
of ZR2.
Of three different ZR2 models, from a mid-size Colorado ZR2, full-size 1500 ZR2, and then the heavy-duty ZR2. You're kind of covered no matter what your needs.
Yeah, I will point out it's kind of cool. Your first truck was actually an S10 ZR2.
Yeah, ZR2 is not a new nameplate, even though they've just started producing the Silverado ZR2s. And I think the Colorado's been around for 8 or 9 years now. ZR2, our first ZR2 was a 1999 S10 ZR2.
Yep,
and it did not nearly have as much technology.
No, it was more of an appearance package with big
tires. They had big tires, and I think
huge tires.
1500 rear axle, and that was about it. And that thing was also a beast. Like, I love that truck. But everything I loved about that truck, they've improved on in our Silverado ZR2.
And they've made it more of a real world capable off-road machine.
Yeah.
And not just be an appearance package.
So we've taken our Silverado ZR2 off-roading a few times.
Yeah.
From our land in New Boston to dirt roads and classic roads here. And the few of the things that I really like Josh had mentioned, are the locking front and rear differentials. You can always kind of be reassured that you're going to get out of whatever you get in, assuming that you have the confidence and the driving capability and the skill. There are different drive modes. There's an off-road drive mode, and if you put the vehicle in the low gear range and in the off-road drive mode, you can take advantage of one-pedal driving, which basically will allow you to only use the accelerator pedal.
Yeah, you don't need to use the brake at all.
Yeah, you can apply the brake by simply letting off the accelerator pedal. And when you're doing highly technical driving, going over rocks or stumps,
down hills in particular,
it is a killer thing to have.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
And then the 33-inch Goodyear Wrangler Territory tires are really good too.
They say they make a little bit more noise on the road, and it makes the ZR2 a little bit less appealing as a daily driver. So if you're one of those people that buys a truck and just only takes it to the mall or something like that, this probably isn't the best.
That's a good segue.
But
daily driving this thing, if
it
that's
hasn't
all,
been terrible. It's been great.
no, I mean, in some ways, it works really well. Like highway expansion joints, potholes, it sucks them up.
Yeah.
The rear of it doesn't bounce around. It is
The
one of
dampers
the
are just like so well rounded.
it is one of the most comfortable full size trucks I've ever driven in my entire life.
The steel bumper though means you don't have a front park sensor, which is
Yep.
kind of like no big deal for most of us.
Yep.
But
We still have the
something to
360
keep in mind.
Still have the 360-degree cameras, so
Yep.
you have a lot of visibility on road and off. But like you said, if you're getting a new truck, and you're trying to debate if you should splurge that extra for the ZR2, and
Just do it.
well, yeah, just do it. But if you know that you're going to go down some dirt roads and maybe go to the mall and drive it on the highway.
Yeah, probably not the package for you.
Yeah, you could save some money just getting a Trail Boss, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
This is really the extreme package for those exceptional situations that you're not going to encounter 98% of the time in a daily driving
But if you
situation.
get one, you're probably going to be more likely to go and try that stuff, get out there and go camping,
Yes.
do some overlanding and all those things. So, if your budget allows for it, definitely go for it. We do have a few regrets though, right? I mean, when we ordered it, we couldn't get the 3.0 diesel.
Yeah, so today in 2024,
and we couldn't get the Bison.
Yeah, so today in 2024, you can pick from the 6.2 liter or the 3.0 liter Duramax diesel as an engine option. We could only get the 6.2 in 2022 when we purchased it.
Which is awesome. It's a great engine. It might encourage you to put your foot into the throttle
a little bit more than you
It
should.
might not get the best gas mileage when the engine's begging to be.
Yeah, so that's that's another reason is, we get around 13 to 15 miles,
yeah.
13, 14, 15 miles to the gallon in this thing. And I think with the diesel, it would have been a little bit better.
I would have liked to have owned a truck with a 3 diesel. So
Yes.
I think that would be something that we would have done a little bit differently. We might have gotten the Bison too, although I think it's like an $8,000 or $9,000 package. So
yeah, so the ZR2 Bison is just another. Yes, it takes the whole package another step further. Chevy has worked with American Expedition Vehicles (AEV) to equip the ZR2 Bison with even more skid plates, a different bumper that has winch capable, a different rear bumper with recovery points. It basically gives you some of those features that you would equip it with yourself if you were going out into nature and needed to think about maybe recovering out of a mud hole or a place where you would get stuck.
But you do add a lot of weight in the process of doing that.
True.
So that's why, you might want to think about whether that's something you're going to really need.
Beadlock wheels too. The Bison also has beadlock. So if you're going to go and air down at all, that's a good thing. We probably would have splurged for the Bison.
I would have
right?
definitely liked to have gotten it, and mainly just because there's a lot of those parts we can't equip now.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to a representative from AEV, and basically what they told me is, I said, hey, can I upgrade my ZR2 to a ZR2 Bison by just buying the parts? And his answer was, unfortunately not. There are a few pieces that you just can't source from General Motors.
Can we get the bumper?
You can replace the rear bumper, the front bumper you can't get. And it sounds like the official answer is it's cheaper to go and trade your ZR2 in for a ZR2 Bison than it would be to try to piecemeal it out of the parts catalog, unfortunately.
Oh, well, I guess the next one.
The next one, yeah. Next one will be a Bison.
Yeah.
And you can get a ZR2 Bison on the Colorado and on the HD ZR2. All three of those trim level truck or size trucks have Bison variants. And generally, it's beefed up recovery points and more skid plates, beadlock wheels, that kind of stuff is what you're going to be getting.
We've loved this truck. I think the only complaints that I personally had was when we got it, I didn't realize we were going to get some of that yellow stitching. I didn't really care for it at first, but I've grown to love it.
Has it? Yeah, we totally skipped over the ZR2 specific interior colors.
Yeah, you get that yellow stitching, you get the headrest ZR2 emblem in there, right?
Yeah.
The other thing was it has the console mount shifter as opposed to the column mount, which is these little things that, I didn't care for, but I've grown to, love them now. So
I like the console mount shifter.
yeah.
You like the
Well,
column mount more? Or?
Yeah, I did. It's taken me a little bit of time to get used to. Since we only are driving the ZR2 and the Hummer now, and they're both the same, it's a lot easier. But when I think we had two trucks, one was the column mount and one was the console.
Yep.
That going between them was a little difficult because my brain wanted to reach for it in the wrong spot. I wish they just make up their mind and pick one and go with it, so I don't have to
So
reorient myself.
The ZR2 also has a brand new interior, which is a big change from our 2019 Silverado.
Yeah.
We have a huge infotainment screen in it with Google built in. Google Maps is the default navigation system. We use
all
Android,
the apps. You get your Spotify and
Waze.
Google Maps is integrated.
Everything's right in your vehicle. If I bring up my phone and I want to say, "Hey, Josh, where are we going for lunch after we record this episode?" and I find some options.
Don't say that. I'm going to get hungry.
Yeah. When I look at Google Maps on my phone and find a destination and I jump into our Silverado, it's going to be right there as one of the options. I can just hit it. It pulls in your profile and your preferences and everything. It's really, really slick, and I enjoy using it quite a bit. It's a massive upgrade over.
So no regrets with paying extra to get the ZR2 package, right?
I don't think so. I wish we would have configured it a little, or been able to configure it a little differently with the 3-liter and the Bison package.
Yeah.
They weren't available when we ordered it, so it's not like we just made the wrong choice. It's just we wanted one too quickly.
Yeah.
We couldn't wait, and we had no idea that they were going to offer that stuff into the future anyways. You really just, you can't go wrong with it. It has never let us down. We've had roaring snowstorms here, and we've
been encouraged to get
through
out in the wilderness a lot more than we would have if we didn't get it. And recently, we decided that we were actually going to take that up a step further and start equipping some stuff for more overlanding and camping. So follow along, check out GM-Trucks.com as we add some parts to it. Now that we've had it a little bit, we're ready to take it up to the next level, and follow us and see what we add. We've got a couple things up our sleeve. We're going to be doing some product installs. So
yeah, you're going to want to see what we've got in store.
Yeah.
We've got a few parts sitting in at our garage already waiting to be installed. So it's going to be a fun little trip to make this thing even more off-road capable, and something that we can go out in the woods and maybe spend the weekend in.
Yeah, camping.
Yeah.
And so check
Can't
that
wait.
out.
Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching GM Joyride with me, Zane and Josh, the Merva brothers. If you really liked it, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit GM-Trucks.com.
Yep. And last but not least, we would not be here without the help of Banks Chevrolet, who has provided us this amazing studio to film in. We are both personally Banks customers for our vehicle purchases.
They're the best.
Yeah, and would recommend Banks for all your dealership needs, really. They've always taken really good care of us. So check them out online at banksautos.com and tell them GM-Trucks.com sent you. See you next time.
See you next time.